Did you kill all these people?
I did.
Are you a serial killer?
Yes.
Holy crap. You believe that just happened? I'm still a little stunned by it, and I've been sitting with this for a long time. Dexter Morgan sitting in front of his sister, Debra, admitting the harsh truth that, yes, he is a serial killer. Hey, so, welcome to the very first Dexter Wrap-Up podcast. I'm your host, Scott Reynolds. I'm a writer-producer on the show. We'll be doing this podcast for each episode of Season 7 to give you a behind-the-scenes look at all things Dexter. We'll be talking with the actors, the writers, the editors, directors, and composers, all with the hope that you'll see exactly what it takes to put an episode of Dexter together. And it gives some pretty fun insights into the show itself. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope it'll be a lot of fun. At the end of Season 6, a lot of people came to me threatening to hurt me if this whole Debra finding out that Dexter's a serial killer was just some sort of a dream, or I don't know, if we were going to whip out and bang her on the head and give her amnesia or some sort of way to find our way out of this problem. But, you know, we, the writers, sort of faced it, and as you saw in that episode, we went for it. And I imagine you have a lot of questions, you know, about why we did these things, and a lot of questions about Debra Morgan herself. Lucky for you, we have Debra Morgan, Jennifer Carpenter, ready in the wings for the very first Dexter wrap-up interview. She gives up a lot of juicy tidbits about Debra Morgan and who Jennifer Carpenter is. It's a lot of fun. So why don't we go check it out? Hey, we're sitting here with Jennifer Carpenter, a.k.a. Debra Morgan. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. We're actually sitting in your trailer.
In my triple banger.
Your triple banger. Everyone wants to hear about 701. We ended last season with this, like my mom called me up out of the blue, after watching it. Was like, I can't believe you did that to Debra.
Yeah, that was kind of.
I can't believe you did it.
And I can't believe we did it to our audiences. We just sort of pulled the curtain right with the thing they've been waiting for so long. But I think we do the right thing and pick up from the very next inhale, the next moment.
We see Dexter say, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Again.
That was really terrifying to have 8 months off and then to come back to that very moment and try to build in everything that we built that whole season. But it all happened very easily. I was so concerned about how to play it, and then as soon as it started, I realized that Dexter was seducing me, not only through I guess the curtain was sort of pulled back on him too. Like I knew what he was doing. I knew there was something terribly wrong about what was happening, but the way that he sort of sewed everything back, all the tears back together, and then remembering the reason that I'd come there, it was all very confusing and seductive and so easy to play and very different from take to take.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when you saw it, were you surprised at what they ended up with, or did it all
I'm
feel
always
really
surprised at what they end up with, because the experience of playing it is never. I never actually see what I was feeling, and maybe that's a good thing. Yeah. Maybe that leaves a lot of room for audiences to see whatever they need it to be.
Right.
You know.
Right. Had you put any thought to? I mean, there's lots of big moments that happen over the course of Dexter, but one of the bigger ones, and one of the ones that oddly created the most controversy, was Debra with the psychologist who then said, "Oh, you're in love with your brother," and then you were going at the end of that episode to go
tell
let
him.
Dexter know that. Had you worked that out about what you were gonna
say to him?
Yeah.
No. I think the last conversation that she has with the therapist at the end of 6 is saying, I know that this is what I'm feeling, and I just need him to know that. She didn't necessarily say, like, I know I'm in love with him. I want something with him. She just needed to know that that was something she was working with.
Right.
So
it put her at such a vulnerable place walking in that room. I mean,
and it was so perfectly constructed and crafted on the writer's side because I think that's the only way that Deb could make an allowance if her heart were tangled up in her mind.
Right. Yeah, because Deborah Morgan's very Law and Order also.
Yeah.
Very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, slowly but surely it's been torn apart a little bit, but
Sure.
for the most part.
Yeah, she always starts with the side of blue, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Sometimes she goes away from it, but...
So then Harry, looking back at Deborah's dad, Harry, when Harry saw
I know
this...
who Harry is.
I know. Just for the people I don't know why they're listening, and if they don't know who Harry is. But he looked at Dexter when he was a little kid, and he saw this thing, and he sort of shaped it in this image. Mm-hmm. What do you think Deborah sees in Dexter in that first episode when she sees, that's a lot worse than 15 dead puppies?
Oh, of course, yeah. And I have always said, I think from like our first Comic-Con, that I feel like that was some sort of child abuse on Harry's part. Just really shitty parenting. But I think Deborah has always seen Dexter on the other side of that spectrum. And I mean, in a weird way, it was like experiencing a little bit of paralysis watching the knife drop. Yeah. Like suddenly, like in a weird way, I was like, yes, let the floodgates open. That explains everything and what is going on,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really difficult, especially, I can't say. I was about to say something about 72.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's moving past that.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing I thought when watching that first episode was that moment when Dexter starts trying to manipulate you a little bit, or Deborah. I'm just saying you,
right.
Deborah. It's all interchanged. And then there's that moment when the two of you get to work again, like work as cops. When the two of you start working together about how you're going to cover up this death,
right.
And then I think you say one last tableau,
right?
Like even in that moment, I mean, how did you work that whole thing out? I think my phone just went off. How did you work that?
Is that what that was? Well, I didn't. That's the thing about that whole scene is I realized that it would be a trap to work anything out. The thing to do was to look at Dexter, and he's sort of he's trapped in this memory monologue. He's writing the story, and because of where I am, to hear him speak to me, like he's really speaking to me, which is something that I always long for.
Yeah.
And he's so carefully and deliciously putting down, like, it could be like this, it could be like that, which is what I was going to do. I was going to walk in and say, it could be like this, it could be like that. So in a weird way, I was hearing what I wanted to hear, and he needs me, and I can give that to him, and I'm trying to see if there's room for me to say yes to him. So
it's that vulnerability that from season one you always wanted out of Dexter.
And that disgusting need that drowns her all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also this there's this question I have about whenever you're looking at Dexter and you're in these scenes with Michael C. Hall, unlike any other show, you can read his mind. How do you not play? How do you ignore that?
That was definitely your phone. How do I ignore that? It's not so much ignoring it, but it's and it's not so much reading his mind, but it's. I assume we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
So, and Dexter has 13 or 15 faces, that he recycles sometimes, and I like I think he knows me and knows what face I need at what time, and like he's always just sort of filling in these invisible blanks,
right, that
keep me, moving
keep
forward.
You as an actor moving forward, but also because we always know what he's thinking.
You always know what he's thinking, but I never do. And I also feel like the thing that I've learned from the first season to this season and have laid into every job I've ever had is if you can somehow, the trick is, I think, to reserve some neutrality, because it's not about, yes, it's about the story being told truthfully and well, but it's also about, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how the audience interprets it. And you want to leave some room for them to invite whatever it is about their life or their experience or what they need in that day to put that in there.
Right.
Keeps them hopefully leaning forward. So Dexter offers that through and through, especially for playing against him. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. It totally does. 'Cause
it's also the most frustrating and difficult thing in the world to play with somebody who cannot play.
Right.
It's been the most challenging part of the whole series for me.
Yeah, because it's
the loneliest experience to work with Dexter.
But I guess the frustration plays so well.
Oh, good.
You know, that you feel between this guy, this person that you care for so deeply, that you grew up with.
I actually asked at one point this year if you guys, even if I'm never going to say it, will you just write me a voiceover so I know what you want me to be thinking, because I'm lost.
But I think you're supposed to
It's
be.
supposed to be, yeah. That was always the answer you gave to.
Yeah. With Rita, I feel like with Rita, she was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
It's a moment of silence for Rita. Long enough. All right. She had a blind spot for Dexter that I think if she had seen this, she would have ignored it.
You do?
I do. I feel like she never could have accepted that he did something like that. It would have explained it away almost immediately. What is it different about Debra?
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but it doesn't matter. She had said the fact
once,
that Debra lets it.
Yeah, Dexter lays out a pretty convincing explanation.
Fairly, yeah. In the moment,
it's very manipulative, but it's also very caring,
and it also falls to pieces.
It starts to because of. I guess that's the answer. It's Deborah's experience.
Well, he does a very smart thing and puts her in the line of fire by. She's guilty too.
Right.
You know, he makes her guilty as well. So now, even if I do the right thing, I have I say the right thing is to take him in.
Right.
And every other minute, that's the thing that my character is struggling with. Every other minute.
Because that's the right thing.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But then I lose everything I've worked for. And it's not selfish. I don't think that she's worried about her own legacy, but she's worried about not being able to do any good in the world or in Miami.
So you feel like she's sort of weighing this a little bit.
And if he goes away, then it's sort of like the origin story repeats itself. Harrison is fatherless. His father was a killer, which is as good as being, trapped in a shipping container watching your mother die. Like it just perpetuates everything. Yes. It might be. But it's also like it's her history, her present, and her future all die the second those handcuffs are clipped onto his wrists.
Right.
You know?
Dealing with flashbacks with you. I mean, this is the first time. Is this the first time? I think this is the first time we've done flashbacks with somebody else other than, I guess, memories. Showing somebody else's memories.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I guess last season we did too, didn't we?
Yeah, and we had the kids shooting the guns and stuff.
That's right. We had a few others. So other than those times that I just listed, that completely negates the question I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
You had to suddenly have the same sort of memory that Dexter had about. For him, it was the baby crying. This thing echoing in her brain. You want to talk through the process of that? Are you
talking about the dream?
In the first episode, you're remembering that you were on a table too.
Oh yeah, that
Rudy. I was talking about with Dexter. Okay. It was the baby and the crying.
Okay.
This sort of repressed memory.
Sure.
Because suddenly you hear Dexter and Rudy talking.
Yeah. Well, even from the first season, when we were shooting Debra on the table, I was wondering how much of this is she retaining really, and it's funny how I think that your body plays your internal Mason does some game of Tetris for you. When emotionally, when things come in and they're going to be too heavy, your internal Mason puts that far, far away. And then, I don't know if that makes sense.
Your internal what?
Your internal Mason, wherever you choose to put things. My father was a terrible person, so you put that deep, deep, deep down so that you can go on with your day-to-day life.
Right.
So I think she took all of these memories with Rudy, probably is doing the same thing with all the Lundy stuff and every other boyfriend that she has lost.
Right.
And she puts them far, far away. And this event has sort of just rocked them all to the foreground, and she's learning things that she's probably ignored or hoped to ignore since that happened.
Yeah.
But it's a mirror image of what she saw, so how could she not?
Yeah, just could not let things go.
Yeah.
That was another fun part, was seeing actual emotion on Dexter's part toward you, and it wasn't necessarily happy, warm, fuzzy emotion.
Yeah, it was, and it's awesome too, because I think Dexter's not afraid to get caught because he knows how not to get caught. Right. And then in the luxurious space of his own office, this conversation starts to make the walls close in, and it's very, it's so easy. Like, I don't think he was expecting such a hard hammer to fall, and it was just another day. And
because he's actually getting angry.
Yeah.
Why can't Debra just leave this alone?
Well, have we met?
That's a odd blind spot that he's got about Debra Morgan too.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. How'd you get into this whole acting thing? How'd this work out?
My aunt was babysitting me and took me to an audition for A Christmas Carol, thinking that it would be a way to get free babysitting because I'd be going to rehearsals, and I accidentally fell in love with it. So
how old were you?
8 years old.
8 years
and
old.
I made a very focused announcement to my family that this is what I was going to do, and they never said no, they just said how. And that was always the question my whole life, like figure out how you can make it happen and not borrow money from us.
Amazing. So they're completely supportive of you the whole time.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I never felt, if they weren't feeling supportive, I never felt it, you know? So, yeah, I got really lucky.
You're from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still.
You still are?
Still from Kentucky.
Get out. So then you did most of your stuff around Kentucky, or how did you branch
growing
out?
up with Actors Theater of Louisville in my backyard is the equivalent of growing up with Warner Brothers Studios in your backyard if you live in LA. It was...
Okay.
I was exposed to playwrights like Marcia Norman, and John Jury was running the theater at the time. Humana Festival was there, so I met a lot of people that from all over the world who were either agents or in casting or producing. So I had a lot of exposure, considering that I was
in Louisville. I never would have known. I would have thought you'd have to go either from Chicago or New York or L.A. But no, not with you. And then how'd you end up out here?
I went to Juilliard and worked in New York for about a year. Laura Linney became a very good friend and mentor. On a Friday, she said I should think about coming to L.A., and on a Monday, I was here homeless with 3 suitcases and ended up living on lawn furniture in someone's guest house who I'd never met for about 3 months. And then I started waiting tables like every good actress should, and then finally booked a job.
And you still keep up with Laura Linney now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Showtime, fellow Showtime
yes, absolutely.
person. Yeah.
Big
And then you did that Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first time I ever saw you on screen and went, whoa.
That was one of my first times on screen, and again, something that I was made aware of thanks to Laura. She threw my name in the hat, and I got to audition at the last minute, and then 3 more times after that. But
you nailed it, though.
I really wanted that part.
Yeah. Did you grow up with any of that? The devil's going to get you sort of stuff?
No, I went to Catholic school, but I think that's where my fear of religious statues started. Someone named it for me recently. It's called deophobia. I think I really pick up on the fear that Catholics put into their art.
Well,
so
lucky us, we stuck you in a church last season a lot.
I know, and I've had to ease into it, and I'm not kidding. But yeah, I've never really been. I appreciate horror films, but I don't seek them out. I'm just a wimp that way.
So did you have any dreams? Did you, when researching this stuff, did it affect you in any way? Or
I researched the hell out of it, but but no, it didn't. It never really got to me. No.
And then now you, how'd you get on Dexter?
I auditioned. I got off my couch and went to the audition.
Was it here or New York?
It was in L.A.
It was in L.A., okay.
Yeah, I was just finishing a press tour for Emily Rose, so thank God I had something to reference. People had some reference for who I was or what I was up to. And it was just a series of 3 or 4 auditions, that got scarier and scarier along the way.
And then you nailed it.
I don't know if I nailed it. I mean, I don't think
You're still nailing it.
Well, I think I was learning all the way through the first season. I felt really green. I'd never done TV before, so I was lucky that my character was as green as I was. So we got to figure it out together.
Because the pace on television is so much faster. It never stops,
fast.
Right?
Yeah. Usually when I'm driving home, I have a moment, aha moment of that's how I should have played it. But too late.
Too late. Still moving forward.
Yeah.
We're not
that's
going
what
back.
these podcasts are for.
Maybe we can tell us a moment now. It's okay. That's interesting to hear because that first season of Debra Morgan that you did is almost an entirely different person.
Yeah.
Than the person that she is now. Do you want to sort of talk through how you tracked this, or
Sure. I mean, I think that while she behaves very differently, and makes her feelings slightly less public, she's the same person. You know, like the thing that I admire about her the most is that she seems to run head on into brick wall after brick wall, and she gets up and thunders through it with as much intensity as the first time. That's something I envy about her. That resilience and determination to do things with honor, and to do things right. I think she's. I'm about to go off into a different tear, but I think she's someone who believes you might just get one life, so she wants to do it right. And lessons aren't wasted on her. I think she learns them. That's another thing from the first year to the 7th. I can't believe we're on the 7th. Is that I feel like she's collecting the lessons a little more rapidly and making adjustments that make her better at her job and make her a little more comfortable in her own skin.
Yeah, because I don't know if Debra Morgan first season that just came on to Homicide could have handled finding out her brother.
Oh, no way.
Like it would have just shredded everything.
Or she might have committed suicide.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. Yeah.
I wonder why she doesn't sometimes.
Because she wants to get it right.
I guess so, yeah.
You played so much emotion on your sleeves, you know, in not only your relationship with Dexter, but also with everybody in Homicide. You know, how do you sort of regulate when to go for it, when to sort of pull back? Because
that's part of the maturity that she's gone through. I mean, early on, you know, you're dealing with Dexter, who's someone who claimed to not have any feelings. So I think Debra in her childhood and her life felt the need to overcompensate and I think it was a lesson for her to be in a room full of mostly men and egos and attitudes and full of competition.
Guys,
So she had to learn to pull back. And I think that's something that she learned with Dexter too, to sort of not show her cards all the time. Otherwise she might get hurt.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
This has been really exciting, and I know you got to get back to set.
Yeah.
And continue
get
acting.
Back out in the heat.
And then
continue
find out what's
acting.
Continue acting. And we look forward to where it's going to go.
I need to do my warm-ups.
You don't do warm-ups, do you?
Yeah.
You do?
No.
Why is your whole trailer just shook?
Oh, someone's probably... It's a triple banger. Someone's probably getting into their banger.
Right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank
you.
And,
I don't know. I guess that's an ending.
And I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Yeah, all right.
Bye.
And we're back sitting here with Scott Buck, the showrunner of Dexter. Hello, Scott Buck.
Hello, Scott Reynolds.
We're both named Scott. It's really nice.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Scott, too. It's so nice. He's been the man you've been sort of guiding us over the past few seasons, making this all happen. And it's been, from my point of view, awesome. And I think a lot of people agree. So, you know, thanks for that. So, as you know, we've been asking people on Facebook and Twitter to ask us questions about the coming season. There's a lot of anticipation. So they've all seen the first episode, and these are sort of questions that follow into that. So we can dive in and we'll ask you. And
sure.
Sound good? So first one's from Adam. His question is, why did you guys decide to explore the Deb and Dexter love relationship?
I think it was something that had been sort of in the zeitgeist of the show for a number of seasons, because we'd been talking about it almost since season 2. That it seemed to explain a lot of Deb's psychological makeup, why she kept making the same mistakes, why she kept picking the wrong guys. And a number of the writers had sort of the idea independently, and it just felt like it was time to finally explore that.
Yep. I concur. Next one. Here we go. Christy, was Deb really, truly planning to tell Dexter how she feels about him? And if so, what was she going to say?
I think she probably would have blurted out something inappropriate, but ultimately would have, in typical Deb stream of conscious fashion. But I think ultimately she would have said that, she had been seeing a therapist and working on some issues for a while, and she just had come to the very bizarre realization that she was actually in love with Dexter, her own brother. And isn't that crazy? What are we going to do about this?
Yeah, and it wasn't. I think a lot of people were freaked out thinking that Deborah's going to walk in there and say, hey, brother, let's sleep together.
No, I think Deb knew what a crazy idea this was, but it was a big breakthrough for her to realize that she had much deeper feelings for Dexter than she imagined. I don't think she ever really realistically thought it would go any further than getting this off her chest.
Right. It was sort of a way for her to become a little wholer.
Sure, I think so.
Got another. This is sort of a bigger one, at least in the text. Darren says, one of the biggest key components to Dexter is the element of tension. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. The biggest cause of this tension, in Darren's opinion, is Dexter's attempt at keeping his true self from Deb. So now do you feel backed into a corner while writing Season 7, now that the thing we've all been waiting for since Episode 1 has finally happened?
I think actually it was just the opposite, that rather than being backed into a corner, it opened so many doors for Dexter because it just created so many stories for us to tell. And the tension is still there because even though Deb has uncovered this information, she has no idea how to unpack it, and Dexter doesn't know what it's going to lead to in any fashion whatsoever.
How's Deb going to live with this? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Finian, what made you decide to have Debra find out?
Again, it just felt like it was something that had been sort of building for a number of years, and ultimately we knew we had to tell this story, but it wasn't a story we wanted to tell until somewhere near the end of our run.
Right, because the books are different. The books, I think at the end of book 1,
Deb finds
out, and then it's just sort of
she's okay with it.
Yeah, we're going a little differently. Luke says, what do you think the ultimate goal of Dexter's character is? Does he want to get rid of the Dark Passenger, or does he just want to survive?
I think he's very comfortable with the Dark Passenger. It feels like it's very much a part of him. I don't think he can even imagine getting rid of it. I think he just wants to keep on going exactly the way he is.
All right, we got one from Craig. How do you manage to make us all love Dexter as a character, even though he's a killer? I mean, is it hard to keep that balance?
A lot of it obviously has to do with the way Michael plays it, and we owe so much to Michael because he's such a talented actor who brings so much to this character. But there's something just innately likable that he brings to Dexter. But also there's a lot of wish fulfillment in this character, and that he only kills bad people. He kills people we can all get behind the idea of getting rid of. So we don't necessarily see him as a force of evil, but as Dexter likes to say, he's just taking out the trash.
Remember there was over the break between the two, there was that, what was that mom's name? The mom that had killed her kids? Right. There was this sort of outpouring online and other places of people saying, can we have Dexter show up? And her
which is a little frightening, but
Julius says, hi.
Hi.
I'd love to know how much of the season story as a whole you write before we start shooting. I mean, how much of the season story is written before the shooting and how much is, she says improvised, but I don't think she means in front of the camera. It's more as we go along.
Generally, we have the entire season pretty well mapped out before we begin shooting. We're doing 12 episodes. We know what the major scenes are in each of those episodes by the time generally we start shooting episode 1, 2, or 3. Things are pretty well thought out by that time. Yeah,
because we have a big board up against one of the walls that's separated by episode and separated by character, and so we have milestones to hit, sort of.
And typically the goal before we start shooting is to have the first 4 scripts written, and the minute we start shooting, we start falling behind because we shoot another episode every 10 days, and we can't generate a new script every 10 days. So we start out as far ahead as we possibly can, and by the time we're shooting the final one, we're just barely getting by.
Because we've changed things.
Yeah, things always change along the way. Sure.
Last question. This is a good one. Oh, no, Julius says, love your work. Love your show.
Thank you.
Kelly asks, why does Dexter have so many brown long-sleeve shirts?
That's just part of his kill uniform.
It's like a superhero uniform.
No, he has long-sleeve brown Henleys, and that's his stock uniform, his kill uniform.
What's he do with them, do you think?
I think he probably all in a special closet, all in a row.
Neatly folded up. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for doing this. I'm going to wrap this thing up. There it is. It's the end of the first Dexter Wrap-Up podcast. Now, if you have some questions after watching episode 702, what's it called? Sunshine and Frosty Swirl?
Yes.
You have a chance to get them answered not only by Scott Buck, but we'll bring in the Admiral, Manny Cotto.
Mr. Manny Cotto.
Yeah, we'll bring him into the room, and he'll answer your questions. So how do you get your questions answered on this podcast? You go to facebook.com/Dexter, or I don't know, if you're into Twittering, then you can hit us up at twitter.com/SHO underscore. That's what it's called. Yep, underscore Dexter. And again, make sure you hashtag it Dexter Wrap Up so we know that this is a question about the show. But you better do it before Monday night, because we compile the questions on Monday night, pick the best of the bunch, and then we'll ask away. We're going to record this every Tuesday for the next 11 weeks, Scott Buck. Hope you're ready for that. What was it? It's yeah, definitely. When you're asking these questions, make them a little cogent, more to the point. So it's not just like a lot of people like to go on and say, how Michael is so awesome. He's in the kill room and stuff, and just like that, and he's awesome.
Yes, he is.
Yep, that's the answer to that question. I want to thank Jennifer Carpenter for being our inaugural guest. I mean, she was great. She's like the coolest ever. I also want to thank, of course, Rob Galuzzo, a.k.a. Rob G., the producer, sound guy for the podcast. And I'm Scott Reynolds, one of the writers here on the show. You can catch us next week when our guest will be Dexter's father, Harry, a.k.a. James Remar, the man. Yeah. You can hear what it's like to be inside Dexter's head, and maybe even what really went on back in the day when he was training young Dexter Morgan, because he has some very specific ideas about what went on. I think you'll be interested. That's it. That's the end. Don't worry. It's going to happen again and again. It has to happen. Have a good week.
Take care.